Maryland basketball could surprise Gonzaga.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Trey Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Maryland basketball has a big matchup tonight against Gonzaga. And I think the Terps have an opportunity to surprise Gonzaga in this Players Era tournament that we've been playing in. Obviously, last night we got the huge win. I'll talk about that in the second segment. But in the first segment, I want to focus about today. I want to talk about the game today. I want to focus kind of on Gonzaga and why I think Maryland basketball actually can surprise Gonzaga, who right now is the 12th best team in the country according to the polls, while Maryland's sitting at 5-1. I think we're in a pretty good spot right now as we are 2-1 in games that really matter, and then obviously 5-1 overall. But Gonzaga has not lost a game, and I'll be clear, I think Gonzaga is a really good basketball team. I do. I think they're very much a top 15, even a top, I would say they're arguably right now playing like a top 10, top 8 team in the country. They obviously got a big win last night for themselves against Alabama, who Alabama, you could argue, is a top 10 team in the country. Alabama was ranked 8th, playing as well as anybody, but Gonzaga was able to beat them by 10 points. They beat Arizona State this year as well. They also beat Oklahoma. Like, Gonzaga's beaten some good opponents, most notably, like I said, most notably Alabama, and they have an old, well-balanced team that I think makes for definitely Maryland to have some trouble. But I think Maryland's team is coming together, and that UNLV win was ugly, and I honestly thought UNLV wasn't that good. Like, I was looking at the spread, and I just didn't get it. I think by the time tip-off, it was like 2.5, and even when we were down 3 at halftime, I was like, Maryland's a good 8 or 9 or even 10 points better than this team. If they can just figure it out, how to take this game to the next level and just play decent basketball, we'll beat them by 7 points or however much we ended up beating UNLV by. But this game against Gonzaga is our hardest matchup of the year. Not even close. Georgetown was a good team. Georgetown had some good players. Obviously, we ended up losing that game because of cold shooting and different things like that. But Gonzaga, I think it would run laps around Georgetown. Like, they're better than Georgetown, and they're a better team than where we are right now. We're still molding. We're still figuring things out, and maybe later on the year we can catch a team like Gonzaga or be in the top 25, maybe even be in the top 20 or something like that. Who knows? But right now, Gonzaga is a better team than us, and it's important to acknowledge that. And I don't think very many people can argue that right now we're just straight up better than them. That's just not the case. My point is, when you look at the spread, when you look at this game, when you look at the ranking, Maryland's a big underdog to Gonzaga, who obviously under Mark Few have a tradition of having really good basketball teams. I know he hasn't won that national championship yet. He had that one team that I thought was going to do it. It was, I want to say when they had like Jalen Suggs, when Jalen Suggs hit that buzzer beater against UCLA, I think it was. I remember that they had some really good players on that team. I thought they would win the national championship. They were far and away the number one team in the country, but they ended up losing in the finals. But we're here to talk about this year's Gonzaga team, who I think is really good. Not quite as good as that team, but I think it's a really good team where Maryland's 13.5 underdogs to, and I think we'll be fine there. Like, I think we'll cover that, and that's a big part of my surprise. Like, I think we keep it a close game. I want to say, maybe I'm too optimistic, we're not going to get blown out by 15 points. I just don't see it right now with some of the talent that Maryland has. with some of the players that Maryland has, I just don't think that we'll get blown out. I think that number one reason why is because we have Pharrell Payne back. Pharrell Payne's a problem, man. He's one of the best players in the country, one of the best bigs in the Big Ten. Like, I think he could potentially be a first-team All-Big Ten guy. Like, I think that's on the table for Pharrell Payne. I think that's definitely a possibility for Pharrell Payne to be a top big in the country, to be one of the better guys in the country. I think that's absolutely a possibility for Payne, and I think having him back allows us to be able to compete and potentially win a game like this. I'm not saying we do end up winning, and I don't necessarily think we will, but to potentially have the opportunity to be in a game like this, I think Pharrell Payne allows us to do that. I think without him, I think our roster is okay and decent, but just there's holes in the front court that you just can't replace. And I think having Pharrell Payne gives us opportunity to surprise Gonzaga. Now, I know they have some good players. I do understand that they have some guys that have been really good for them, like this kid Grant Foster, who's old. This is what I mean. They have some old players. He's a guard. Maryland played him in the tournament last year at Grand Canyon. He had 23 points against Maryland. So he's 25 now, an experienced guy's been around college basketball for a while. They have some other guys like Graham Ike, who's another graduate student. Braden Huff, who I think is really good. One of their big men has been there for a little bit. He averages 15 points a game, 5.5 rebounds. And so they definitely have some guys that have been really good, but I just lean towards the fact that Maryland's going to keep it within 10. I'll say that. And remember, the spread's at 13.5, 14 points. So if Maryland keeps it within 10 or 9 or 8 points, it's not a bad showing for a Terps team that's still trying to figure it out. Now, another reason why is because Gonzaga hasn't necessarily been the best shooting team ever right now. They shoot 32% from three, which ranks 8th in the WCC where they play, and they attempted the fewest three-pointers in the conference. So to me, what that kind of tells you is a team that doesn't necessarily shoot the ball very well, but also doesn't shoot a ton of threes, it's hard for them to honestly just blow your door off. Like, I think that when you're hitting a lot of twos, a Maryland team that's going to take some threes and hopefully make some threes, we'll see how we shoot. But my point is that Maryland, if Maryland's hitting some threes, not even necessarily a high percentage, and Gonzaga's not taking a ton, we can stay in the game. I think it's something that for Maryland definitely could come into play to keeping it a close game, that we're not playing a team that's going to light us up necessarily from three. Now, I don't want to act like I can't shoot the ball. Like, that would be dumb to say, but it is a game where hopefully we don't just get lit up from the three-point arc, and those different things we can keep up with them in terms of shooting the ball. But that'll have to be something that we have to see as well. I think my biggest concern with this game is the amount of turnovers that we had against UNLV is definitely scary, because right now, one of the good things about Gonzaga and them being an experienced team, and one of the reasons why I doubt we win this game, is because they're really well coached, obviously, but they take care of the ball, which makes sense for a bunch of older guys. They give the ball away just 10 times a game on average. They force their opponents into 16 giveaways per contest. So that's definitely something that they've been really good at. And when you lose the turnover margin to a team like Gonzaga, the reality is you're most likely just not going to win the game. So I think that that's something that Maryland has to be able to do, keep the turnover margin close. To be realistic, we turn over the ball a ton against UNLV. I think it'll be tough not to have any turnovers against a team like Gonzaga, but I do think that Maryland needs to be able to limit them somewhat to be able to have an opportunity to win this game. I think also I'm really excited. I thought Miles Rice showed flashes of being back to being pretty good. And so I think him as well gives us another opportunity to win this game. So definitely things I will be looking at. Let's talk about the UNLV game, the recap, the good, the bad, the ugly, which I think all happened against UNLV. We'll talk about that next. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss a start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into same game parlays for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And there's so many different things to bet on FanDuel right now. There's so many different things to be able to do. So whether it's whether you're betting on basketball, whether you're betting on football, the NBA, NHL, there's so many different things. And right now, everything's in season. So FanDuel's giving new partner of the NBA. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about Maryland's game against UNLV, where the Terps had themselves a really solid game. My bad. There were some technical difficulties, but we should be back now and good to go. But I hope that it didn't mess up too much. But I wanted to talk about the Maryland versus UNLV game, which obviously we all stayed up last night to watch. Let me tell you that we can't do that again. We cannot do the 1 or the 12 a.m. game. I was fighting, and I like watching Maryland basketball, but I was fighting for my life. I was tired, trying my best to keep my eyes open. I was like, I know some of you guys are struggling out here as well. This is not an easy task to stay up and watch one of these games, but I did it. I watched the games. I had a couple different takeaways from a game that I thought was an interesting game, a big win for Maryland basketball, a game that we couldn't really afford to drop, like definitely not a game that we needed to lose or we had any business losing. Like, definitely, I thought that was one we needed to put away, a game that we needed to just make sure we got the job done, a game that we made sure we won. And that's what we kind of did. But from my perspective, watching that game, I had a couple different takeaways. What I said earlier, having Pharrell Payne back makes all the difference. It just does. I'm not even sure we necessarily win that game if we don't have Pharrell Payne. I'm not saying we don't, but I'm not 100% sure we win that game if we don't have Pharrell Payne. Just having him inside the paint, having a front court presence is just huge for Maryland basketball. And Pharrell Payne, I thought, was really good last night. 20 points, 8 rebounds. He did have 3 turnovers, but who cares, honestly? Pharrell Payne coming back from that weird injury that he had from the fall, already active, already playing. It was honestly great to see. I thought for some reason he wasn't going to be back for a little bit, but he played, and he looked good playing too, which I thought was important as well. And then a couple other guys who I thought played well. I thought Darius Adams, still want him to be a bit more efficient, but he gives us some juice, man. And you can tell he's close to breaking out and having himself a really awesome performance. Like, he's close to being able to do that. He had 3 offensive rebounds as well, which I thought was really big for Maryland basketball against UNLV. But the 15 points, 2 and 9 from the 3-point arc, 4 13 from the field. He continues to get to the free throw line though. 3 assists. He did have 3 turnovers, but as a team, I'll talk about it in a second. We just way too many turnovers. How about Andre Mills? Yeah, the 9 points is fine, but man, he rebounds. I don't know if anyone else noticed it, but he might be the best rebounder on our team. Like, I don't know a better rebounder than Andre Mills on our team because he's a freakish. The way he can get up, the way he can bounce, it's truly pretty awesome to be able to see from Andre Mills. But man, he's rebounding at a really high rate from a guard. I'd say one of the better guard rebounders I've seen in college basketball, and I think that's honestly a fair assessment from him, to be completely honest. So that was pretty cool to see from him as well. And then something that I didn't expect, how about Alex Austin? He looks to be a guy that can play this year. The freshman who was like a fringe 4-star recruit that Buzz Williams was able to get to Maryland from Chicago area. Man, he's playing really well. 6 and 3, 2 offensive rebounds. We'll take that any day. And he looks comfortable. And he kind of took the minutes in that front court rotation. He kind of took those away from Colin Metcalf. And he looks like he could potentially, like, he played better than Elijah Sanders yesterday, who was starting at the 4 for us. Like, Alex Austin's going to be a guy for us. And I know Solomon Washington's going to be back here eventually, but man, I mean, Alex Austin looked as good as anybody last night, which I thought was really cool. Miles Rice, I mentioned earlier, had a pretty good game as well. Isaiah Watts, we're still trying to kind of get him going a little bit, but he's doing some good things overall. So I thought overall, those are the guys who I was kind of thought played well. I thought Elijah Sanders was a bit disappointing. He just didn't play very well. 2 points, 1 of 5 from the field. Still played a lot of minutes, just didn't play very well. I thought definitely needed to improve a little bit. 1 of 5 from the field, definitely not getting it done. 2 points. He just wasn't very efficient. Diggy Coit, 3 of 11. I thought he played pretty well. He had some big shots from 3, which I thought were big. But I think we're transitioning to start to see how this team's going to go. 20 turnovers cannot happen. It's just way too many turnovers. So that's something that needs to be fixed. So that turnover number, we're absolutely going to have to get done or down. It's so high, way too high. Not something that we want to play with, not something that we're going to beat Gonzaga with. I'll tell you that for free. So definitely something that needs to get fixed. We did only shoot 29% from 3, and we're shooting a lot of them. We put up 31 attempts. Definitely want to see that improve a little bit, but we can't lose the turnover battle by 7. That's my biggest concern. UNLV only turned the ball 13 times to our 20. Like, we got to get that down a lot. So that's something that definitely needs to change for Maryland basketball, something that we definitely need to get better at, because tonight against Gonzaga, I promise you, they'll take advantage of that. They'll see that. They'll kill us if we turn the ball 20 times. We need to be around 10 turnovers if we want to have a chance of winning that game. Maryland football got a huge new commit in the right spot. We'll talk about that, what it means for Maryland football next. So Maryland football recruiting is really interesting, but Maryland football was able to flip a big commit from Ohio State, of all worlds. Ohio State, the Ohio State, as they say. Maryland football was able to get a flipped commitment, which I think is a pretty big deal for the Terps. And this kid, Cameron Brickle from IMG Academy, who was, like I said, committed to Ohio State, attends IMG in Florida. You guys all know, the national powerhouse. I think a perfect type of a commitment, like the perfect guy that we need on our football team. Like, this is the type of player that we want, and that I want more guys like this. Like, give me 10 Cameron Brickles. Big guys up front that are going to be able to stop the run and are going to be big bodies, because right now we just lack talent on the defensive line, like in the interior part. We have the edge rushers, like Cindy Stewart's really good. We already know that Zahir Mathis came into his own. And then, of course, we have Zion Eagley coming in, who's the number one recruit in the class, who we're all expecting to be the next big thing. So it's what we need up front. And if you've watched our game this year, Zion Eagley, yeah, those guys are going to help us on the edge to pass rush. But at the end of the day, to be honest, those guys aren't going to help us a ton with stopping the run. That's just the way it is. Like, they're going to be able to get to the passer, which we haven't had a lot of in the past either. But, man, we haven't been able to stop the run at all this year. Like, there were so many different teams that just ran the ball down our neck because our defensive line wasn't that good. And, yeah, we got all these guys from the portal last year, but there's something to be said for quality players. I was like, okay, the quantity part might work a way that we haven't done it in the past. Just get a bunch of them, get a bunch of players. But that didn't work. I remember on the broadcast, I think it was the Indiana game, all the commentators were talking about Maryland has no depth up front, and Indiana's able to run on them. And I was like, I thought this year we'd have more guys that would give us kind of quality, decent plays, knowing that was going to be an all-star, but that really didn't happen. It was the edge rushers. So what does that mean? I'm kind of going off on a tangent. Let's keep things short. We need guys on the inside of our defensive line, and Cameron Brickle, that's exactly kind of what he does. And so I think I think this is really kind of a perfect type of pickup for us. 305 pounds, 6'2", 6'3", just a big bodies. He played his freshman year at Malvern Prep, and then he transferred to a school in California before going to IMG, and this was one of their scouts on him. It says only played in 3 games as a sophomore due to transfer and injury, but was dominant in limited action. Was an impact interior lineman that you could see his natural ability. He's a powerful kid with heavy hands and knocks guys backwards. Has quick feet in the box and plays behind the line of scrimmage. Strong at the point of attack and can move well laterally. And can disengage from a blocker and shows the ability to run down plays from behind. He's a true nose guard who can take on double teams and still make plays. The upside is high, and Brickle is an early high power forward prospect with the talent to play for anyone at the next level. So the kid's been a pretty good player, and the kid's definitely going to continue to help Maryland football and hopefully improve that defensive line that hasn't been good for Maryland at all, and hopefully get us to where we need. That's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked On Terps.